Hello, my YT family and friends. It is not morning right now, it's afternoon, so I'm gonna say good afternoon here in California. So guys, I decided to come today and share a little secret of that hopefully might help those of you who are trying to take the nclex RN. And I'm coming right now because I know that December here in the United States, December and May, if you're in university or you're in a community college, those are the graduation times. So you have 2 times to graduate in a year, and that would be Christmas time, after Christmas, or before Christmas. I don't know if it's before or after, but December, like I said, and then May as well. So I wanted to come before those 2 dates for 2022 and 2023 to share my tips and my secret of passing the nclex RN. There is a bee around outside here and I cannot deal with it, so let me get rid of that. Whew. The weather is so nice. It's November and this afternoon feels like a beautiful spring afternoon. It's just so nice. But anyway, yeah, this is what I did. This is what worked for me, and these tips that I'm going to share with you are tips that my teachers, my professors shared with us back in 2012 when we first graduated. So this is really not a secret. This is straightforward. The number one thing that I did was I paid attention in class to the most that I could. This might seem cliche, might seem like, oh, this is like everybody knows about that. But to be honest with you, it is easier said than done. Pay attention in class. That's your first tip. Because as much as you read the book, if you don't pay attention to what your teachers say in the classroom, you might still fail. And I can tell you this as a proof because my first 2 classes in nursing, I couldn't really quite grasp a lot of things in the classroom. I wasn't used to the program. So I thought, okay, if I don't really understand what's going on in the classroom, because I was shy too, I didn't want to raise my hand if I couldn't understand. I thought that, okay, I'll just go and read it and then in the book and then I'll understand. Come to find out, with that strategy, I almost failed my first 2 nursing courses. And that did not work at all. So I said, you know what else can I do? I need to do something different. So the different thing I did was you know those blueprints that they give you at the beginning of each class, the blueprint of the classroom. I started to look at that, and that helped me to understand a picture or have a good picture of what the course is going to be about. It was broken down into weeks. It was broken down into what we were going to cover each week. I used that, and then for each time we had class, they would give us a PowerPoint to print. I would take notes of whatever the teacher would say in the classroom on those PowerPoints, and then when I would go home, that's what I reviewed. And if I didn't understand what was on the PowerPoint again, after already paying attention to the classroom, taking notes and asking questions, like get over my shyness and ask questions when I didn't understand something, that is the time I would open the book and read that. Because if I had stuck with my previous strategy of reading the whole book from A to Z like that, first of all, I wouldn't be able to be prepared before the exams because it was too much to read. Second of all, I would be so overwhelmed. And third of all, I would fail. Because the book has so many different things, but there are specific things that your teachers want you to focus on. And there's a reason for that. Because to be honest, when you get on the real floor, when you get to do the real thing, a lot of the stuff in the book is just a basic, but it is not, how do you call it? Not all of it is what is applied. It is your common sense, your judgment that is what is applied. So that's the number one thing. Pay attention in the class. If your teachers give you a blueprint of the course, use that. If your teachers give you PowerPoints to download those or print those PowerPoints before each class and take notes on those, and then use those to review after each class and take notes. Those will really, really help you. One tip too is that if you have time, even if it's just 30 minutes before class, as you're waiting to enter your class, just review the things that you will go into the classroom to study on that day. Because once you review those things beforehand, it helps you to have a few questions already written down to ask your teacher. And usually those questions are similar questions that you would have after the program, after the class, but then maybe you are rushing to the next class or whatever happens, you forget. So it really is helpful to review your notes or your blueprint, or the chapter, even just skim it through with the with the PowerPoint, and then go to your classroom prepared. It helps your brain to know what is coming and therefore understand things a little bit better. It really does. That's the number one thing. The number two thing is, I don't know how your program is. I'm speaking for the RN. I'm not speaking for the LPN because I didn't go that route. I went straight from high school and did my 4-year university degree and got my BSN. But the second tip I'll give you is this one. Make sure that those ATI books that they give you, for us it was ATI. I know for some schools it's HESI. For some other schools they may have other companion NClex preparatory books that they give you that you are required to complete and take assessments while you're taking your nurses courses. And all this to prepare you for NClex. Make sure that you don't ignore those, and make sure that you review them as much as possible and take as many questions as you can, because I'll tell you a big tip at the end of this video. Really make sure that you take those preparatory courses along your nursing program seriously. The third thing that I did was I made sure I pay attention at clinicals. Clinicals are so fundamental in nursing, almost more than the classroom almost, because that's how you get a real feel of how it is that you are going to be working. So pay attention at clinical, get your hands dirty at clinical, do as much as you can there, because the more you do at clinical, the more confidence you gain when you get out of nursing school to start working. And not only that, if you are a clinical for a facility or a hospital or any type of company that hires nurses, and you do really well, or you show that you are very interested, you put in the effort, you're not just like tagging along the nurse, but you're actually asking to do work, they are observing you. And when it comes for time for you to apply for jobs, and you may want to consider it your place of clinicals, they will remember you. And who wouldn't want to hire a new grad who's so eager to do well, who really tried to put all her hands wet to do as much as possible, even without having a degree. Of course, there's limited things that you can do, because they will not allow you to, do certain things under another nurse's license. But, if you're with another nurse, you can very well give medications that you prepared with her to a patient. You can very much, help out with a dressing change. It doesn't require something of a very high skill like a wound vac or so on and so forth. So, just be sure to really offer as much help as possible while you are clinical. I think this was the second or third? I think this was the third tip. Another tip that I have for you is, in addition to the required preparatory NClex courses that your school gives you to do, whether it's ATI or HESI, you do your own, and start this from course 1 of nursing school. Why do I say this? Because the more questions you take, the better it is for you. The tip and the trick of passing NClex is to be familiar with the type of questions that they present to you. You can know so much in nursing school, okay? But if you don't know how to answer the NClex questions, you may fail. Now, it might seem contradictory to what I said, which is pay attention in class and blah, 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 blah. Not really. Because guess what? If you pay attention in your classroom, you are absorbing the critical information that will present itself in the NClex. that critical information is the same that you will be presented to you most times at work. So as you pay attention in the classroom, pay attention to those questions, because more than likely you will find the same questions as you keep taking, like, and I'm talking like, take at the least 2,000 questions before taking the NCLEX. You will notice that the questions will start to get similar and similar and similar, because how many questions are they going to be able to make up in you? How many diseases are there in this world that we have discovered, and treatments that we have discovered? Do you get where I'm going with this? The questions will start to sound similar and more similar and more similar, which means that you don't have to do too much thinking or too much guessing with the NCLEX. It is about what you know. Because when you are on the field with nursing, you are using your critical thinking and your judgment, but you're not guessing. So NCLEX does not want you to be guessing. They want you to use the critical thinking plus the judgment and what you know. So if you've answered, like, how do you know that a patient is having, let's think of this. A patient has a blood pressure of 100, say 100 over 52, and they are usually a hypertensive patient and they are on metoprolol. You notice that the blood pressure is 100 over 52, but the order is not to give metoprolol if the blood pressure is below 110 over 60. So what do you do then? But the order also says give the medication all the time. So like the order says that you have to give medication every morning at 8 a.m. So what do? Even if the order says this is the medication that you give the patient every morning at 9 a.m. But their blood pressure, you checked it this morning, was 100 over 52. And the order says do not give if the blood pressure is 100, is not above 110 over, I forgot what I said, over 60 something. What you need to do and what you know is you need to recheck that blood pressure prior to administering the medication. And if the blood pressure is above the 110 over 62, then you can administer the medication. But if the blood pressure is below that, what you know is that you should not give. So don't think so much into it, like, maybe if I don't give it, then the blood pressure might spike up all the way up, and they'll have all these answers for you. But what you know is what you need to pick, which is do not give the blood pressure medication if the blood pressure is not above 110 over 62. Does that make sense? There are questions like that in the NCLEX or similar to that. I just made something up right now, but those are some of the things that will come up that may confuse you a little bit, because you start thinking things like, oh, if I don't give the blood pressure medication, what if their blood pressure is now 180 over 60 in the next 2 hours? Not really, because what happens is that maybe that medication is a little bit too high for the patient. That's why their blood pressure is like that 100 over 52. And so maybe when you might want to actually, and if you see that happens quite often, you might want to contact the doctor and let them know that, hey, I've noticed that the blood pressure is usually low. Do we want to decrease the metoprolol from this dosage to this dosage so that, we can have better blood pressure readings, something like that. Not to say that 100 over 52 is, terribly low, but, you get the point of what I'm trying to say. So these are some of the things. Just pick what you know. Just pick what you know. So in this case is do not give the blood pressure medication, because that's the order and that's what we know. Don't think of anything else. So you'll get questions like that might be similar about blood pressure and monitoring blood pressure before giving the medication, this, that, and the other. So if you see an answer that's similar to the one that you picked before, is in the same context and it's about the same thing, you better not pick something else. Because what they want to assess is to be sure that you know what you're supposed to know. So pick that answer that you know. This is the secret of NCLEX. Take as many questions as you can. Take over 2,000 questions. thousands and thousands and thousands of questions, you realize that the questions start to sound similar, the answers start to look the same, because you see that as you pick them wrong, you see that the answer might be the same as the one that you picked last time, but I don't know why you picked a different one this time. So that's the secret. That's really what you have to do. Take as many questions as possible. I will tell you this: once I was done with nursing school, I stopped studying what was in my notes. I only did that to pass the test and to, of course, learn material for nursing to become a nurse. But once I was done with nursing school and I got my degree, I said, I'm done going through my notes, going through my adult 1, adult 2, pathophysiology, pharmacology. I'm not doing that because I know this information, and that's what my teachers taught me and taught all of us. You do not need to go back and open all these books, unless of course you're so confused about something, or you want to remember medications or how to do certain practical things, sure. But when it comes to studying for the NCLEX, close all those books, put them away. You already got your degree. Start practicing taking questions, because that's what you need to know how to do. Reading questions and answering questions. Spend most of your time doing that and studying the answers to those questions, because you already know the material. Spend your time doing that. You will thank me later for it. I promise you, you will thank me later. And I was so shocked, and I initially I was so nervous to do that, because I was always so into, like, I need to read all that stuff. So I felt like without doing that, maybe I would fail. But guess what? When I went into that little website that they tell you could go and find out if you passed or failed, I still remember it. It's like this website that you have to log in to pay to take the NCLEX. So basically, if you go back into that website right after you take the NCLEX, and it asks you to, so you log in and then you checking, and it asks you to pay for the test. Again, that means you failed the test. But if it doesn't ask you to do that, and I think it just says thank you for taking it or something like that, then that means you failed. Oh my God, I remember the feeling. I was just rolling on the floor like, I passed, and I didn't even get, of course, the nursing, the RN license yet, whatever. But everybody knew about this trick, so I knew I had passed, and I was kind of shocked, because honestly, I wasn't the brightest in the class. I was not the brightest. I had a really hard time in the beginning of my nursing courses, because nursing was not something that I was going to go into. I was going to be a lawyer. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer when I was in high school. So I was going to, and I had gotten accepted into a law school in Chicago Kent Law School, and I was going to go to that. Then my parents was like, there aren't that many jobs for lawyers. I don't think you should do that. And it was a big old blah. So I was like, you know what? I better listen to my parents, because what if I do this law school and I come out and I have no job, or if I get a job and then I end up hating it and I can't switch to something else because the jobs are minimal. So I said, let me just listen and do it. And I don't regret doing nursing. There are things about nursing that I wish were different to make it a better field, not only for the nurses but also for the patients receiving care from us. I don't regret it. Like I said, it's just one of those things that you reevaluate after some time, if it is something that you really want to continue doing, or you want to expanding or not. So but the one thing I say about it is that, to be truthfully honest, there are a lot of jobs out there. Unfortunately, not that many great jobs for nurses, but there are a lot of jobs out there. So really, if you want to work, you will never really be jobless, if you are a nurse. So that's the positive thing about it. You can move everywhere in the United States and you will be fine, because you will get a job and the job will sustain you. Money wise will be okay. I don't say that there's a lot out there making it seem like nurses make all this money, but to be honest with you, once you have a family, you have kids, you have more responsibilities, nursing paycheck is not really cutting it. We need more, because it's really just covering basic things. It's not really allowing you to do the vacation as much as you want, and buying things the way that you may please. It doesn't really, it's just basic stuff, which of course we're grateful for, but we can get more. I would say we could get more. So yeah, there you have it. These are the tips and tricks that I share with you. Oh my goodness, the sun. The sun was blurring me, guys. But these are the things that I did to pass my NCLEX the first time. If you have any questions, put them down below. And don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Till next time.